I fear that I have dove a little too far down the Josie Dikeman rabbit hole. So, just this is your final seatbelt warning. Buckle up, buttercups, because it gets more insane. Just when you thought it couldn't, it does. Last week we heard from Derek's new wife, and then this week we heard from, or today we heard from the last baby mama or whatever. Anyway, so I went down the rabbit hole just trying to search their criminal history because, it's kind of the way this case has been. But before I could even get there, I find this Facebook page. The person running the page claims to be a lady named Raven, who is Alexavier's cousin on Jenna, the biological mother's side. When I say it's claims to be ran by, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I don't have any way to prove or authenticate any of the documents on there, who's actually posting them or anything. So I'm just going to go with allegedly, and they claim they are. Okay? So that page posted a letter that says it was written by Jenna Love to the school district after Alexavier's death. Now, the letter is like 4 or 5 pages long, but I want to start with page 1 just because this gives us the details that go back to how Jenna ended up in prison for hitting Josie in the head with the baseball bat. So she says, in 2019, I moved to Missouri with my children, and Derek wanted to move with us to be closer to the kids until they could get on their own feet. I allowed Derek and his 2 children that he had with Josie, and then Josie and her 3 children, to move in with me. Shortly after we all moved in, there was an altercation between Derek, Josie, and I. And this is written by Jenna, allegedly. I grabbed a bat from Josie and hit her on the head with it. During the scuffle, I also obtained a broken arm. I called the ambulance, and we were both evaluated at the local hospital. I then went to jail. The next day, Josie used my debit card to bail me out. It goes on to say it was documented by medical personnel that all the tests and assessments of Josie were within normal limits. Allegedly. Just what the letter says from the Facebook page, okay? Derek had moved to Missouri while on Wisconsin probation and was denied a transfer. Josie, Derek, and the children moved back to Wisconsin. When I refused to pay to have all their belongings sent in a U-Haul back to Wisconsin, she threatened to press charges. I did not pay for their stuff to be returned to Wisconsin, so she pressed charges on me for hitting her. Because I admitted to hitting her, her words turned into the gospel, and nothing else about the circumstances mattered. Not the police reports, medical reports, phone messages, etc. I was sentenced to prison for 5 years. Josie also made sure all my attempts at being released on parole were denied. Page 2. In the meantime, my mom and sister cared for my 3 children. Due to domestic violence, drug and alcohol use, and the way she negatively was treated by Josie, mine and Derek's oldest child, it's redacted, I think that's the oldest daughter, became severely depressed and began hurting herself and ultimately refusing to go over there. This had all been documented and reported to CPS. Remember when I said, it always comes back to CPS was involved 48 million times? Of course, nothing transpired except for redacted, the little girl, or older girl, being able to live with my mom full time. Derek was still forcing Alexander to go to their house. And then once COVID money and benefits started rolling in, Josie and Derek took Alexavier full time and alienated him from my family, including his sisters and me. Josie and Derek would not allow my son to visit or talk to me. She also transferred his care to a different medical facility so she could be listed as his mother and did not list me as the mother or contact. We were deeply concerned for Alexavier as Josie had a history of child abuse. That's true. That one's not alleged. She pled guilty. And there was a long history of domestic abuse. They've admitted to that. Drug and alcohol abuse. Her attorney admitted to that. Unemployment, neglect, homelessness, etc. We also knew Josie disliked me and my kids. And so Raven apparently turns out to be allegedly the actual caller that called in the welfare check the day before Alexavier turned up deceased. So come back for the next part, you guys, because there's so many more posts and more pages to this letter and reports and all kinds of crazy shit, but this is going to get really long. Sorry.